Christmas came early. The markets are pumping and Bitcoin hit a new all-time high. Hold your horses. That doesn't mean we just go willy-nilly and start buying random tiny cap coins left and right. I want to start by focusing on the major projects. And if you've been in crypto for more than a few weeks, you've probably heard the phrase Ethereum killer going around recently. It's a label that's been slapped on a bunch of different layer 1 chains over the years, from Solana to Cardano to BNB to Avalanche to XRP and countless others. Now let's be real, none of them have actually dethroned Ethereum yet, but lately the conversation is shifting again and 3 names keep coming up: BNB, Solana, and XRP. And I'm not surprised given how things are seriously heating up in the markets. I mean, I'm sure you're seeing Bitcoin and the S&P 500 both continuing to smash through all-time high after all-time high. And we called it here on the FireHustle channel back when we saw the ridiculous amount of institutional funding pouring into the coin. Looking at spot ETF inflows now, we're seeing hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin being bought up on a daily basis. And that kind of momentum doesn't stay isolated either. Historically, when Bitcoin breaks new ground like this, capital starts rotating into altcoins shortly after, which should set the stage for the next big move. Meanwhile, the Australian government is making big moves for regulation with Project Acacia. This is basically a program run by the Reserve Bank of Australia to test how digital money can be used in the real financial world. It focuses on things like stablecoins, tokenizing bank deposits, and a central bank digital currency or CBDC. These are being tested in real-world use cases like bond trading, carbon credits, and more. Now, there's a few reasons why this is bullish for crypto. First, it shows serious government interest in cryptocurrency aside from just the United States. And second, it shows that blockchain tech is being tested for actual financial infrastructure instead of just speculation. But as for the US, lawmakers have announced that the week of July 14 will officially be dubbed Crypto Week in Congress. And it's not just talk. They're planning on voting on 3 major crypto-related bills: the Genius Act, Clarity Act, and the Anti-CBDC Surveillance State Act. Starting with the Genius Act, this bill is aimed at setting up some serious, clear rules around stablecoins. Stablecoin issuers will be required to hold 100% reserves, meaning the coin should be fully backed and redeemable at a 1-to-1 rate. They also need to register with regulators either federally or at the state level, and they will undergo audits to make sure everything is up to standard. With these laws in place, it'll help protect the public from incidents like what happened with Terra Luna by ensuring that stablecoin providers aren't pulling some shenanigans behind the scenes. Next, the Clarity Act is aimed at defining who regulates what in the crypto industry. For example, as of now, it's a bit blurry whether or not assets like ETH are commodities or securities. But this bill will help classify these assets more clearly, lay out how tokens could transition from securities to commodities, and set more guidelines for exchanges around token listings. Then the Anti-CBDC Surveillance State Act will block the creation of a US retail central bank digital currency, which seems to be the opposite from the route the Australian government took in embracing CBDCs. And supporters of the bill are worried that a CBDC could give the government too much power to monitor and control how people spend their money, and it could eventually replace private banks with a fully centralized system. And we know the goal of crypto is decentralization. So these new laws are coming into place right after Ripple's win over the SEC, and at a time when Binance is still battling with regulators, meaning the outcomes from Crypto Week could change the playing field and have a serious role in which layer 1 ecosystems can end up taking the crown. It could be ETH, Sol, BNB, XRP, or maybe even some random layer 1 that nobody is thinking of. Who knows? But what I do know is, regardless of which layer 1 ends up taking the crown, you'll be able to find it trade on WEEX. Hear me out. I get asked all the time which exchanges I use, and honestly, I don't rely on just one. There are too many hacks, outages, and weird issues to put all your trust in a single platform. That's why I spread things out across more than 10 exchanges, and one of my main ones being the WEEX exchange. They've got insanely low fees and a super easy sign-up process, and you can check out the link in the description for a FireHustle exclusive 200 USDT bonus. But this bonus is only for the first 200 people to sign up with my link, so snag your spot ASAP. Now, back to the big question. Which of these major layer 1s has the best chance of actually competing with or overtaking Ethereum? Well, regulations aren't always the end-all be-all. When it comes to these layer 1s, we need to account for daily active users, total value locked, institutional backing, updates, back-end tech, and so much more. So let's dive into it. Starting with the back-end tech, we can't have a good blockchain without speed. Solana is easily the fastest in terms of transactions per second. It averages around 2,000 to 4,000 TPS with a theoretical max of 65,000 TPS. As for XRP, theirs is closer to 1,500, but the theoretical TPS is much higher thanks to their XRP ledger partner networks. This basically lets multiple sidechains work at the same time. And finally, BNB is averaging around 150 to 200 TPS, and its theoretical max sits at around 4,500. So how do these compare to Ethereum? Well, right now, Ethereum averages somewhere between 15 and 30 TPS on the mainnet, which honestly sounds pretty low compared to the others. But with rollups in layer 2s like Arbitrum, Optimism, and Base, the real TPS of the Ethereum ecosystem is way higher. So we get it. ETH is slow as hell, and we all knew that already. But what about scalability? Well, instead of beefing up the base layer, Ethereum relies on its layer 2s to handle most of the transactions. The mainnet acts more like a settlement layer for now, but future upgrades like dank sharding could push Ethereum's total capacity past 100,000 TPS, allowing for more faster and cheaper transactions, and maybe even getting rid of the need for layer 2s at all. And Solana goes the opposite route, scaling everything on a single layer. Its proof of history and proof of stake combo seem pretty solid, but it's a different story when we really put it to the test. We've seen Solana struggle with network outages when traffic gets too hectic. Take the release of Trump and Melania coin, for example. I'm sure you remember how congested and slow the network was. It was clearly struggling with the amount of users that were using it at the same time. But let's see if future updates can fix that. As for XRP, I think this is where their chain shines. Thanks to their sidechain network, they can run as many chains as they want to in parallel, allowing for pretty much infinite scalability. With that system, XRP is already one of the most efficient chains out there for handling payments. BNB, on the other hand, doesn't really use any rollups or layer 2s. It has a dual chain setup, a beacon chain, and a smart chain. This helps spread activity and allows the chain to handle more transactions at a time. It's fine for where Binance's ecosystem is at right now, but I don't think it's built for the same massive level of scaling as the other chains. So it's between XRP and Solana for this one. Although XRP is very efficient, it's still specialized for just payments. That's why you gotta give the points to Solana for scalability. Although they have had occasional outages, we haven't seen any other chain reach this insane level of traffic that Solana did during the Trump coin era, so we have no clue whether or not they could handle it. And I just know it would have been a nightmare on Ethereum. Anyways, back-end tech is one thing, but it's nothing if nobody is using it. That's why we should look at some of the most important stats like ecosystem, institutional backing, total value locked, and daily active users. So looking at these stats, Solana has definitely had its fair share of the spotlight. It's consistently one of the most active chains by daily users and on-chain transactions for a while now. According to recent data, Solana averages around 7 to 8 billion transactions per month. And that's not surprising when you look at their thriving ecosystem that brings in real users. Jumping into DeFi Llama, Solana is sitting at just under $10 billion of total value locked. And that's beating BNB's $6 billion. But neither of them come even close to Ethereum's massive DeFi ecosystem. Ethereum has over $70 billion of TVL, and that just goes to show the insane difference between Ethereum and the rest of these chains when it comes to liquidity and institutional backing. And if you don't understand the difference between these ecosystems, let's jump right into it. Solana's ecosystem is growing fast with projects like Jito Staking Protocol and dexes like Jupiter and Radium. But ETH has the benefit of being around for much longer and has a much more established ecosystem because of it. Ethereum has massive projects like Aave and Lido for DeFi, Uniswap, which is the largest DEX of them all, and even BlackRock's own RWA fund called BUIDL. So while Ethereum is still ahead of Solana and the other chains in most categories, if I had to choose one with the strongest potential to catch up, my pick would be Solana. That's because although Solana isn't at Ethereum's level yet, its rate of growth easily outpaces Ethereum's. Now, one of the last things to look at are the recent updates around these projects. You never know what news might be big enough to change your opinion on these picks. First off, we recently saw the launch of the first ever US traded ETF that gives investors exposure to Solana. It's called the SSK ETF, and it's already getting some massive inflows of over $80 million flooding in. This signals that Solana isn't just a playground for retail anymore, but a serious contender for institutions. As for the XRP updates, they've been getting some big wins on the regulatory side. They just recently secured another favorable ruling in its ongoing legal battle with the SEC. And the court confirmed again that XRP is not a security when sold to retail investors, helping Ripple lock in some big partnerships with their own share of institutions around the world. Countries like Japan and the UAE are even integrating RippleNet into their cross-border payments, and we're starting to see on-chain volumes pick up as a result. And if you don't know, RippleNet is a decentralized network of banks and payment providers that use Ripple's financial tech. And earlier this year, Ripple launched a new stablecoin called Ripple USD or RLUSD. It's pegged 1-to-1 to the US dollar and will help improve liquidity and utility for XRP. XRP also recently got its first US spot ETF listing with the Grayscale Large Cap Fund that includes Solana, XRP, Cardano, Bitcoin, and Ethereum. But there seems to be some serious turbulence here, as we just recently saw the SEC halt trading on this fund, with Grayscale now threatening to sue. So let's see how that goes. As for BNB, it has the benefits of being tied to Binance, the largest exchange in the world. But aside from that, we just saw the first BNB treasury company in the US called 10x Capital, and it's now being backed by YZI Labs, the family office of Binance's co-founder CZ. They're aiming to get a stock listing very soon, and if they can pull it off, it could be huge for BNB. So to wrap things up, it's clear that Ethereum still holds the crown, but the important point is that the competition is heating up fast. Back then, there was no other chain that anyone thought could take Ethereum's place, and the fact that we're now seeing serious debates around it is massive. And I can see why. Solana is growing rapidly and has serious momentum. XRP is laser focused on global payments and winning their legal battles, and BNB continues to grow from its connection to Binance, along with institutional moves like the 10x Capital play. Each chain has its strengths, and who knows, maybe we don't even end up seeing a single winner, but instead we see each chain dominate in a different narrative and niches. But if I had to pick one chain with the best shot at challenging Ethereum, I'd keep a very close eye on Solana. Still, the space moves fast and the game can change in an instant. So it's best to stay sharp, stay informed, and don't chase blindly. Now, I want to hear from you. Which one do you think has the best shot at catching up or even surpassing Ethereum in the next cycle? Let me know in the comments down below, and make sure you're subscribed for more breakdowns like this. We'll be tracking these metrics and narratives closely as the market heats up, and that's all for today. Remember, just because I'm talking about a project doesn't mean you should just blindly invest in it. None of this is financial advice. Always do your own research and understand the risk before making any investment decisions. If you're interested in the project I'm watching closely, then come and join me in the FireHustle VIP Discord. The link is in the description below. And if you want more videos like this, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.